Dun, 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 dun. Clear, full screen, and greetings, Internet scholars. This is your Jesse Stiles, and welcome to a very special episode of Twisted Signals. Today, I'm just going to be demonstrating one max patch. And this is the patch that I used in a recent lecture to create these video trails that seem to persist in an infinite manner across long stretches of time. And you're looking at the output of this max patch right now. This is actually very similar to the video time shifting patch that we looked at a few weeks ago, with one interesting difference. So let me tell you how I thought about this. Shortly after I made that first lecture about creating video trails with feedback, I saw a few things on my Instagram feed by this person who I follow, Sydney Jacobs. So Sydney was posting these awesome looking Instagram videos where it has what looks like a video echo, where the echoes like really persist on screen in this super clear way that was actually pretty different from how my max patch worked. So there's one example, and here's another one. These videos also have cool music on them, and the tempo seems like it relates pretty well to these video echoes. So I really kind of liked that audio visual effect, and I liked how the video was like pretty clearly reinforcing this concept of tempo in the pieces. And visually, you know, it reminded me of a few other things I'd seen as well. It made me think about this painting by Marcel Duchamp, Nude Descending a Staircase, which is this iconic modernist painting in which you can see something that takes place over a stretch of time, sort of unfurled in one still image. And it also made me think of some pieces by another video artist whose work I admire. This is an excerpt of work by Crayola from a piece called Pleasant Places. Where again, motion in the video is persisting across time in this really clearly visible way. So I started thinking about how could I adapt the max patches we had made to achieve effects like this. I actually wrote to Sydney on Instagram, and he was nice enough to write back to me and explain to me how he had made these videos. So he was using Adobe Premiere, which has an echo effect, and he explained that he was using like a specific operator to achieve these super persistent trails. And after he explained that, I realized that you could do this in Max. So let's go back to our Max patch. Here we are. Lots of very persistent video echoes here. And there's actually two different ways you can do this in my max patch. This is using a maximum operator. You can also use a minimum operator. So this is the same settings with a minimum operator. So let's look at this patch. This is actually identical to the video feedback patch that we made in our lectures a few weeks ago. So you can go back and refer to that patch to understand basically how you take a matrix and then create a video buffer using matrix set, and then how you can increment through that buffer using a counter, and how you can create a delay line by offsetting that increment value. And that's going to create a time-shifted copy of our video. Let me go back to maximum mode. In that first patch, however, we were using a jit.expr with an expression that added together the live signal with the time-shifted signal, scaled them in some way, and then sent them back into the video buffer using feedback. So here we have a send and here we have a receive. And that's how we were able to achieve video feedback. So this is all totally identical. The difference between that patch and this one is inside of this jit.gen. So jit.gen is a system in Max that allows us to do super efficient math on video signals. And if you double click on jit.gen, you can see what's going on inside of here. And this has two modes. It's either going to use this object maximum or this object minimum. And when it's using maximum, it's taking the signal from input 1 and the input 2, and for every pixel in these two matrices, it's outputting the one that has the brighter value. And then if you're using the minimum object, it's doing the opposite. It's outputting the pixel with the darker value. And so that one subtle change allows for the video echo to persist forever as long as what's in that time-shifted copy of the video signal is brighter than what we had had before. So these echoes that you're seeing persist in the output of this patch, these are all the areas of the image that I've made brighter through motion. So there's these two parts of my glasses that are white, and you can see them creating these like crazy wiggly fields. And you can see like there's some parts of my hair that are a little bit shiny, and that's creating this like crazy hair cloud. And then my hands are a little bit brighter than my jacket in the background. So wherever my hands are making the image brighter, that's just going to persist forever because of feedback. And if we switch it into minimum mode, we get just the opposite. So everywhere in the signal where I'm making the color values darker through motion, that's going to persist forever. So you could get different effects really just kind of based on maybe like the clothing that you're wearing, the lighting conditions you're in, and what your background is. You'd probably get totally different results. And this like works super efficiently in real time. You're looking at the real-time output of this. So I thought this was super frickin' dope. So this is using a live webcam as input, and it works really well. In this patch, I've also added the ability to use a movie if you want to put this effect on a movie. So let me turn off this camera, and we can switch the switcher here to take a movie. And I'm gonna load this video shot of my cats. And we'll hit the play on this play bar. And you're gonna see the same effect, but now it's being applied to this pre-recorded movie rather than my live web camera. You can play around with different amounts of delay. So I've set this up so that we have 100 frames of a delay buffer here. And right now we're looking at 99 frames of delay. Exactly how much time that is sort of depends on the frame rate that you're achieving. We could also empty out this buffer by clicking this clear message, and we'll be starting over. So we could like make this a much shorter delay, and you get very different looks. How about 47? So this copy of the video, you can see everything is getting resized according to the dimensions of the input source. So this version of the video is 1280 by 720, and I'm actually able to get a really good frame rate. I'm getting like over 50 frames per second. So if you wanted to record the output of this, I added a sub patch here with a jit.record. It's gonna, by default, use the dimensions of the incoming signal. You can choose whatever codec you want. It's gonna record in real time, so you'll just get what you're seeing. And this will be the frame rate of the resulting video. So if it's running super smoothly, you could just record this straight onto your computer and you'd probably be happy with the results. So trails on cats.mov. And then we hit stop. Let me stop this video. I should. Oh my gosh, my desktop is a mess. Here's the movie we just made. So that's the basic tweak that we made that gives us this kind of like infinite feedback effect on our video signals. I just want to show you one more variation that I made on this patch. So this works pretty well on like my webcam or on a movie where the resolution is not super large. So this is 1280 by 720, and I'm running this on a computer with a pretty good graphics card, and it's running very nicely. But let's look at what happens if we try to apply this effect to a much more high definition video. So in my video about convolution, where I sort of showed this effect for the first time in these lectures, those videos were actually shot on a 4K camera, and I wanted to preserve the quality of those videos. So if we load a 4K video into this patch, here's the same video but 4K. You can see the dimensions here. It's now 3,840 pixels by 2,160, and my frame rate has gone way down to 8 frames per second. So it doesn't have that same fluid motion. So how could you record the output of this and preserve the quality? Also, if you wanted to make a video trail with like really precise timing, you would need to be able to really specifically know how many, when you say I'm getting 99 frames of delay, what's the duration of each frame? So the way to do that is to sort of make this patch run not in real time, which is maybe counterintuitive because Mac's, one of its strengths is that it runs in real time, and this is how most people use it, is to create live effects. But when we make really complicated video patches, sometimes they don't run super well in real time. So let's look at the other version of this patch. Okay, so here is the version of the patch I made that is specifically made to run on high-res video and output it frame by frame at a really specific frame rate. In fact, what it will do is it'll be the same frame rate as the incoming video. So if you have a 24 frame per second video and you set your delay line to exactly 24 frames, the delay time shift you're going to get will be exactly 1 second. So if you're trying to compose music where the tempo is going to specifically relate to this video-based time effect, this would be a way to do it, and a way to do it on super high-res videos. So The signal processing here is exactly the same. We're going to use jit.movie to play a movie. We're going to use matrix set to create a buffer, and jit.gen with these two modes of sending pixels back for creating a feedback loop. We can set our time offset here. But what we're going to do is, instead of trying to play the movie in real time, we're going to output it frame by frame using a counter. And that's going to allow us to like fully render and record each frame before moving on to the next frame. And that way we will be able to achieve a full frame rate output recording of this patch. So we can load our movie, and here's the 4K version of the same video. You can see that we've got this like huge size. It's 3840 by 2160. And to make this start, we're going to click on this bang, and then the counter will start outputting frames until it runs out of frames. And then you can restart it by setting the counter back to 0 with this and then sending the bang again. So you can see our counter is counting upwards. Our frame rate is like 7 frames per second, but that's okay because we're not trying to watch this in real time, we're trying to record a video. So here is the output with feedback. And so if we want to capture this, let me actually stop it by interrupting the loop here and then reopening this. So the loop that drives the counter here is we're using the feedback matrix to trigger the next frame. So after we get output from our feedback system, it goes through defer low, which kind of like slows it down a little bit, and then it provides a bang and we get the next frame. I'm extracting some information about this movie using this part of the patch here. So when we read the QuickTime movie, we get an output from this rightmost outlet that tells us a successful read took place. Let's look at the output in the Max console. So you can see it says read and then the name of the movie and then 1. So I'm selecting that 1 and then I'm querying some more information. I'm saying get FPS and get DIM. And then I'm routing out the FPS here and the DIM here. That's the dimensions of the movie. And I'm using the FPS to set the frame rate of my recording. I'm using DIM to set the size of the recording. I also use DIM over here to set the size of the buffer for our delay line. This message, seek notify, is what jit.movie tells us after we tell it to go to a specific frame. And I'm selecting that seek notify message to trigger the bang that actually outputs the matrix. So that makes it send out the name of the matrix, and we use send and receive. So we receive it over here where we drive the counter, and we receive it down here where we're adding the live signal with the feedback from our delay line. And then once we get the output here, we use send and receive. So we receive it over here, and that's our feedback. And then we also receive it up here to dump out the next frame. And as long as this graphical gate is sending those bangs to this outlet, it's just going to keep counting until it runs out of frames. You can interrupt it by moving the graphical gate. So let's record this 4K video. I'm going to use the write message, and I'll just put it into this folder. So I'll say cats trails 4K. And as soon as it receives frames, it's going to start writing this 24 FPS ProRes 4K video. So I'll send this reset message, which is going to clear out my delay line. It's going to make the counter start counting in the right place. And then this bang will begin the process. So this is going to be a little bit slow because it's like 7 frames per second. And I don't know exactly how many frames are in this video, but it's a few hundred frames. So let's just wait and see what we get. All right, that took a few minutes. I had 1,287 frames. There's no more frames, so the loop stopped working, and I'm just gonna click the stop message. And I should have a new video. So I recorded it into this folder. And wow, it's 4K. It doesn't even fit on this monitor. Let's try to play it. Yes, there you go. So like full frame rate, 24 FPS, 4K video, and the time interval of these delay lines is exactly 1 second because I set this to 24 frames of delay, and this is running at exactly 24 frames per second. So if you wanted to do a video with really specific time effects, this would work for you. That's our show. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Peace.